Hi, I'm Tina. Wanted to start a YouTube channel forever. So basically, this is gonna be my March media wrap up, which I basically just had this idea because I realized that I was taking in a lot of media very like passively. It's embarrassing, but I wasn't really paying attention to things as much as I used to, and I was finding that like I wasn't remembering things as well. So this is part of my attempt to think a little bit more deeply about the media that I consume throughout the month. And so essentially this is going to include like songs, movies, TV shows, books, comics, like whatever, video games, like whatever media content I happen to interact with. I'm just gonna kind of recap it here. This one is going to include a little like haul of con stuff that I got from megacon, which just happened, which was maybe my favorite con experience that I've ever had. So yeah, and please don't be mean about the lighting because yeah, I waited too long to film this and now it's like 5:45 and the sun's going down. But I'll try to sit in the sun for the time being. You know, the time being, the being that we all know that's made of time. Sorry. Part of my spring routine, now this doesn't happen every year, but when I was like 15, 16, I first watched Ouran High School Host Club. Kiss, kiss, fall in love. Ever since then, I just kind of watch it every spring. I think like the cherry blossoms and everything, like it's a very spring show. Ouran was not a first time watch for me. I've seen it many, many times. I think it's really cool, and this is something that I think anime does that I don't know why people assume that because something's animated it's for kids, but well, I do. It's just like elitism and normies. Anime has this tendency to be like so silly, so over the top, but I think in the same way that like a lot of comedies manage to have like sadder moments than dramas, I think it's that vibe of like when you have the juxtaposition, it makes down moments in a comedy so much more intense. And then like it's kind of the same thing with a drama, like when something funny happens in a drama, like you kind of have like a the laugh almost surprises you. Anime can do that really well where they'll pull in these really deep plot lines, illegitimate children and someone who lost a parent very young, and which are both in Ouran. The pressures of being the third child in a family that is like high achieving, and so how do you surpass people who have already come before you? I think all of that's really interesting, so definitely worth a watch, okay? Okay. Sorry, I do nervously, actually I'm not sorry, I'm nervous and that's okay. But I do nervously play with things, so I might be doing that. I also listened to Miyazaki by Paloma. It just came out, I believe, on March 17th. I had it in my calendar. First of all, love Hayao Miyazaki, if you're not familiar with who that is. He is, I think, the founder of Studio Ghibli? Ghibli? I'm gonna say Ghibli. Oh, correct me if I'm wrong. He made like Spirited Away, Howl's Moving Castle, Ponyo, I think Grave of the Fireflies, which is really sad, but I haven't actually seen. But I plan to. He's also like very loudly anti-AI. As like a lifelong illustrator and animator, he has like been very loud about if you use AI, you're a That is Hayao Miyazaki's take, and you know what? That's my take too. So yeah, Paloma made the song, and essentially it's about like art being human and rage in your art being important and something that's like salient in making something that matters. I don't know, I thought it was a good song. I think you should check it out. I think you should also check out Hayao Miyazaki and his takes on AI. It's cool. Okay. So I finished Little Weirds. Let me be a good YouTuber and have a visual aid. Bear with me one second. I finished Little Weirds by Jenny Slate this month. I did start it last month, but I figured I'd include anything that I'm either currently reading or finished. I just thought that book was great. I really appreciate women who are deconstructing or have deconstructed the kind of like societal expectations on women and how we're meant to express our femininity, the ways in which that can become oppressive, and the ways in which once you break out of the vision of how you're supposed to be a woman, life can be so much more beautiful. So it was a lot of her expression of her sexuality and her experience with nature and I really love the idea of like sublimity from romantic poetry, romantic era poetry, not like specifically romance poetry, which is like roughly 1800s. The concept is basically that sometimes nature is so great that it's almost awful, and I don't mean awful as in like bad. I mean like awful as in awe-inspiring, but also sort of terrifying. Like a hurricane is really beautiful in its power and its strength and its destruction, but it is terrifying because it has the ability to kill, to destroy. But then it also speaks to like nature always perseveres, and so I really like that concept, and Jenny Slate kind of seemed to evoke some of that in that book. I definitely recommend it. I think it was such a good book. I think you need to like set aside expectations about what it's sort of, sorry, I'm gonna shift again. As the sun sets, we're gonna keep moving over. I would probably say that it's sort of a literary memoir in that it sort of has that like poetic prose, but it's not necessarily poems, but they're short. Some of them are like a page, some of them are like 7 pages, but it is sort of like autobiographical, you know, but it's a vibe. You should read it. Sorry, I just like angel numbers and it's 555. I don't know if you can see that. I've also, okay, this is a currently reading. I've been reading Dan Howell, You Will Get Through This Night. Let me put it in the sun because it deserves its moment. Sorry, I've been into like Dan and Phil. Shout out to people who watch Hard Launch podcasts and subscribe to the Patreon. Sorry, this is not sponsored. It would be really cool if it was, Dan and Phil. Put it in my pocket. This book is great. I'm about halfway through it right now. This book actually came through for me. Quick story time. I went to the airport and I was feeling real anxious, and I was nervous because I had found out that the airport that I was flying back to, that ICE was in it, and I have bad history with police in my life. So I was just like kind of nervous. I get a little bit anxious, and in my head I was like, I'm on a list of people that the police hate and they're gonna grab me, which is ridiculous. And I also recognize that I have white privilege. I am a white woman. I am probably not on their radar immediately when I'm walking by. I do understand that, and I am not trying to downplay the very legitimate fear that non-white people definitely are having right now with having an ICE presence in airports. So please don't think I'm in any way trying to make this about me. In this case, it was just my personal experience. I was very nervous, and I have generalized anxiety disorder and CPTSD, so my brain was just, it latched on, and it was like, I'm gonna die. So instead of watching anything on my phone or like doing anything, from the moment I got to my like gate at the airport to the moment I landed, I was reading this book. I honestly would attest that it stopped me from having a panic attack. So great job, Dan Howell. Solid work. Essentially what I would say about this is that he wrote it in conjunction, is that the right word? He wrote it together with Dr. Heather Bolton, who has a PhD, or she has her doctorate. Sorry. I don't know if that's different than a PhD. But he wrote it in conjunction with a like licensed psychologist who works in CBT and DBT, and I thought that was really cool. I have like been through mental health things, and I'm very familiar with DBT. A lot of what was in the book was very familiar to me, but like still rehearsing it, especially in a situation where my anxiety was kind of like like ramping up through my head, was such a helpful experience. I specifically was going through the section that was talking about like thinking about what you can and can't control. I'm trying to find the page. So I was going through the section that was like self-soothing, and it goes through, so like in DBT they call it the 5 senses, but it can also be called 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, which is like find 5 things you can see, 4 things you can hear, 3 things you can touch, 2 things you can smell, 1 thing you can taste. You can't always, I regrets. So like in the situation of me being in the airport, I could control what I chose to do while I was sitting there and waiting and like preparing to go to my home airport where there was a nice presence. And so what I could control was what I decided to do in the meantime, and then calming myself down as much as possible so that once I was in that setting, you know, I was kind of like prepared, my mind was sharp, I wasn't freaking out. That was what I had control over. I don't have control over who's where and whether or not I by chance bump into like people that I'm frightened to be near. That was really helpful. I love you, dude. I've also been reading Frankenstein. I've been reading Frankenstein for like 3 months. I initially picked it back up because I read it when I was in college. I double majored in English and psychology, and so for my English degree I read Frankenstein, but I wanted to read it again before I watched the Guillermo del Toro movie. So I still haven't seen the Guillermo del Toro movie because I'm only like halfway through, because I like to read 17 books at the same time. But there was a section that I wanted to read. So one of the things I love about older works of fiction, and that's not to say that things now don't do it. Oh my god, there's stuff coming out all the time that has commentary on things that have been happening in the world and whatever. I think that some of the things that are in older works of fiction, and like Lord of the Rings is a great example of it too, where there's like very clear what's the word? Commentary. Oh my god. There's very clear commentary on capitalism, fascism, oligarchy, any of the buzzwords. So I just want to read this section because this was really interesting to me, and this is when Frankenstein's monster is learning about the people. He's staying like in this like side attachment house to this cabin, and he's learning about the people there, and in the process he's like learning how to read and everything, and he's starting to understand the world. The words induced me to turn towards myself. I learned that the possessions most esteemed by your fellow creatures were high and unsullied descent, united with riches. A man might be respected with only one of these advantages, but without either he was considered, except in very rare instances, as a vagabond and a slave, doomed to waste his powers for the profits of the chosen few. And what was I? Of my creation and creator I was absolutely ignorant, but I knew that I possessed no money, no friends, no kind of property. I was, besides, endued with a figure hideously deformed and loathsome. I was not even of the same nature as man. I was more agile than they, and could subsist upon coarser diet. I bore the extremes of heat and cold with less injury to my frame. My stature far exceeded theirs. When I looked around, I saw and heard of none like me. Was I then a monster? A blot upon the earth, from which all men fled and whom all men disowned? And I just think that that whole section, first of all, so rich with like allegory. So I just thought that was really interesting, like the explanation of like the only people who count as like mattering are people who either come from a family that has esteem, or, you know, what we would call nepo babies, or having wealth, which often are tied together anyway, and it's very hard to achieve those things if you are not like born into them. I just thought that was really interesting because problems that existed in I think the original was like 1817 or something, and then this one is like a 1831 or something version. This version is an edited version by Mary Shelley many years later after Percy's death. And the beginning was really sad. It was a foreword from her. She was talking about how sad she is to be without him. But it was really cool. She talked about like the writing competition that ultimately birthed the book, which was pretty cool. Anyway, and that's why you should read classic literature, because I think it helps you develop the understanding of very real world problems through the lens of fiction. And Frankenstein's monster in many ways is anyone who doesn't fit the classic mold. Most people are not just the cut and dry version of humanity that capitalism or you know, billionaires would like for us to be. So I had the best experience at megacon, and I just want to say, for my next thing I'm going to talk about, I went to see Ready or Not 2 because I was a Ready or Not stan. Saw the original in theaters. I'm a big movie theater girl. I worked at a movie theater for like 3 years. I went to see Ready or Not 2. like days after I went, Frodo Baggins! Also, I love Over the Garden Wall. So when I met him, I was like, I love Over the Garden Wall, because I was like, I could say I love Lord of the Rings, I do. But Over the Garden Wall is so much smaller, and I doubt that he hears it as much. So I wanted to tell him that, because that's one of my Halloween time rewatches. Every single fall I rewatch Over the Garden Wall. It's only like 10 episodes. Go watch it if you haven't seen it. Potatoes and molasses. We'll get to me meeting Elijah Wood. That was pretty sick. I went to see Ready or Not 2. A good time. Laughed a lot. Good movie. Worth seeing. Definitely recommend it. I think for me personally, because Ready or Not is like that's a movie like I make my friends watch that movie. Like when I meet a new friend, I'm like, you need to see Ready or Not. We're gonna watch it. I don't care. I'll strap you to a chair and you'll watch this movie. There's like a couple of movies like that where I force people to watch them. It's for your own enrichment. So I love that movie. It's so peak for me that sequels are always hard for me to like really like them quite as much as I like the original piece of work. So do I think it was as good as the original? No, but I think it was a romp. I think it was a good time. I think it was funny. I think a lot of the scenes were evocative of the first movie, but I think that in some ways they landed less impactfully because it was kind of repetitive from the first movie. Pieces of it I was sort of like, come on guys, like we already saw this. And I was a little disappointed that I almost feel like somehow I feel like the dialogue was a little different than the first movie. In the first movie, the dialogue felt a little more natural, but also more foreboding. And instead in this one, some of the dialogue felt a little cheaper. It felt a little more like, okay, yeah, you don't have to think that hard about. So something I like to do in movies sometimes is like guess what they're gonna say next. And I felt like I could predict what was going to be said a fair amount of the time, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I just think there were some ways in which it could have been funkier. Elijah Wood is a freaky little guy. Amazing. Make that guy a freaky little guy. He has this unnatural energy to him in a good way. Like he seems, I don't know. There are some people to me that seem like fae, you know, like Hosier seems like a fae, like he just, and like Florence Welch seems like a fae. Elijah Wood is like a tricksy little guy. Gollum was right. I love Elijah Wood. I really liked the movie, so don't get me wrong. I just have to be honest that I do feel there were some places where I was like, come on guys, we could have tried a little harder. Sarah Michelle Gellar, love of my life, apple of my eye. God, her ability to just act with her face, to react, which I think not everyone can do. I think a lot of people can act when they're the one speaking or they're the one who is the focal point of the scene. I don't think as many people are like excellent at being a reactor because it's so hard not to make the scene about yourself while still kind of being in it. I think Sarah Michelle Gellar just has this ability to do like micro expressions that are, and I think she was incredible. I thought she was great. I was initially very skeptical of the Buffy reboot. I did not want it initially because I don't trust reboots. But Chloe Zhao being the director, I think it really had potential, and I think that it was sabotage. So I'm giving all the good vibes. If it can come through, all I ask is that they do justice to the original show. That's it, that's it. As long as it has the same vibes. Things don't have to be exactly one-to-one. Just give it the same vibes, that's all I want. All I want. Okay, so now we're gonna get into my megacon experience. I love Lord of the Rings, and it's the 20th anniversary, question mark? 25th anniversary, question mark? It's an anniversary of Lord of the Rings. So megacon had like a big event, and pardon me, megacon had a big event where they had a ton of people. They had all the hobbits, Gimli, and Legolas. And Liv Tyler. I don't know why I gave her real name. I did an unexpected evening with the hobbits or something. So I got to see Billy Boyd, Dominic Monaghan. I think I'm saying that right. I apologize if I'm not. Elijah Wood and President John Aston, Jesus. Which was awesome. It was so cool. I actually lost my voice in that panel because so here's the thing. Lord of the Rings came out many, many years ago. This is no judgment, okay? I love people who are older than me. I don't think they're old. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm trying to do is set the scene. Most of the people who were in this thing were middle-aged. It was also late at night and it ran late. It was supposed to start at 8 p.m. It started at like 9. So everyone's tired. They've been at a con all day. No judgment, dog. But when they came out, people were not very loud. There was clapping, but no one was like, wow! So that was me, and I was going, wow! Because I'm trying to make up for all the people who aren't up in energy. So I fully like lost my ability to make any kind of high range noises for about a week following it. But it was worth it. I wanted them to feel good and I wanted them to know that they are loved, okay? Okay. So let's get into my haul. Some of the experiences that I had. My homie Mia made me this shark. This was before I even got there. She is really good at crochet and made me this shark. So sucks for you that you don't have one. Then I actually don't know if this is, okay. I got the Lorian brooch. So this actually has like a pin on it, so I could oh, dangerous. This actually has a pin on it, so I could actually wear it. So this is the ring, but it's like stuck in here, so I'm not gonna get it out right now. But this is the ring, and it actually is glow in the dark. But this wasn't from Weta, so the studio that made everything for Lord of the Rings, Weta, was there, and they did a bunch of promotional things. I did buy stuff from them, which you'll see. But this wasn't made from Weta. I also got the Elven Rings of Power. So this is Nenya, and then I don't know the other one's names. Vilya and Narya. I mostly just wanted Galadriel's ring. Live Love Queen Galadriel. We'll see another Galadriel thing in literally like 0.2 seconds. This is from just like a vendor. But I'll try to put where I got everything in the box below. I'm gonna tell a quick story with our Elijah Wood photo op. When I was going to my Elijah Wood photo op, we were standing in line. There was this guy behind us, and he had never been to a con before, and he was like a little bit nervous, and it was his first photo op, we found out. So we ended up kind of adopting him and like teaching him how to go through everything. We were like fixing his hair, he had glasses, and we were like, you might want to take them off, sometimes they glare. I felt like I got to pay forward good con experiences that I've had before. Yeah, it was super cool. And then this was by far my biggest purchase at the con, and this was from Weta. And this is a Galadriel figurine that's like handmade by the people who made the miniatures in Lord of the Rings. Like the Weta is the studio that did the like costumes and like set design things. Oh my lord. Oh, watch me. Oh my god. Ready? Ah, she's so beautiful. Come on, focus on her, not me. Focus on Galadriel in all her glory. It's literally beautiful. It is stunning. The level of like the tassel on the back of her cloak is, you can see the lines as if it's individual. The handiwork is just incredible. I think it's beautiful. I love it. So then my other photo op that went very well and made me very happy, and we're going back to Buffy, was I had a photo op with James Marsters, which I was very excited about. Love Spike. Love Spike very much. If I could get it out of this sleeve. So first I'll show, I just had this signed. I love 70s Spike. This is before he kills another Slayer and steals her drip, which is messed up. But apparently he told me this whole behind the scenes story about how she was actually like a stunt woman. She wasn't an actress because in the scene she had no lines. So he said it was like the most fun he had on set. She was like throwing him around. He said at one point he started bleeding and she was like, haha, you're bleeding again. And I don't know, it was fun. I really enjoyed hearing about it. It was such a cool, he was lovely, absolutely lovely. To the point that when we had our photo op, me and my friend went as Dean and Cass that day. I was Dean and my friend was Cass. And James Marsters was actually in an episode of Supernatural with Charisma Carpenter where they played witches, and he noticed that we were cosplaying Supernatural. So we went for our photo op, which this is our photo op, very cute, very nice. I don't know why he had to like mog on us, but I'm so glad that he did. He looked at us and he was like, if you come to my table for autographs, I'll put you on my Instagram. So now we're on his Instagram because he makes like a collage of everyone. My friend told me that when we came, so when you get a photo op, you like go through these little curtains afterward so that like the area where the photo op's happening is kind of like private. And I came out of the thing and I just dropped. I dropped to the floor and just like was like, oh my God, I can't believe that just happened. And my friend told me afterward, when we walked away, that a bunch of people were looking at me and like it seemed like it hyped them up that I was that excited, and that just made me happy, like that people weren't looking at me and be like whoa, overreaction. Apparently people were like, oh, sick. So I just had like such a good experience at megacon. Okay, now I'll try to rapid fire the other things that I got. Oh, I got this Elvira and Harley Quinn comic because it's Elvira and Harley Quinn. Do I need another reason? This beautiful, beautiful fellowship spread. And then Mr. Frodo and Sting, which I just, both of these, oh my God, glorious. And I got this beautiful fairy. And this was from a vendor. His name was Poseidon. Sick name, dude. And he was so nice, so lovely to talk to. Literally, Artist Alley is almost always my favorite part of a con. And that's the majority of everything that I bought was Artist Alley stuff. I love supporting artists. AI, sorry, not the fairy. AI. I love supporting artists, so I'm more than happy to pay for things. So this was from someone called Pearl Odyssey. This was her little card. My God, it's so beautiful. This is gorgeous and it's food and drink safe. And then she also, there was a little bag charm and I bought this from another vendor. The Juice Box Club is this vendor, so you can find them on Instagram. So this is a calcifer bag. I was talking about Hayao Miyazaki before. I love Howl's Moving Castle, okay? And then this was the little bag charm that I bought from Pearl Odyssey, which was the person who had the cup. This came from hair pieces that I bought. This one, a friggin' sword. So cool. These that have little flowies on them. Yeah, there we go. Come on. So it's like little flowers, and I just think these hairpins are so pretty. So those came from Glimmish, I believe, but I will double check to make sure that that's right. The earrings that I'm wearing, I also bought at megacon. So they're just like, I think they're just like resin with sparkles in them and they're hearts. And that was from whimsykeishop. This was also from Weta. So this is Anduil and the Shards of Narsil. And I showed this to my mom. The first thing she says is that the Subaru logo? She's not even wrong. Why is it the Subaru logo? And I drive a Sub, so that was extra funny. Because I have always wanted to play D&D, but I've never had the chance to play it. This is now my second set of D&D dice, even though I've never played D&D. But they have glitter in them. I think that's so cool. Yay, glitter. I like glitter. I like girly things. What are you gonna do about it? Then I also got this book. It was a sticker book, and I got these Bob's Burgers stickers from a vendor. I love Bob's Burgers. I got this one that says take your meds. Then I got over the garden wall. I got some little stickies, and I got a little Greg. And then I got this beautiful print. I just thought it was pretty, so I just grabbed it. This was by Swommie, and this is from Tsunderesharks. So this is like the flowers from Spirited Away, and it just says like, remember to be kind to yourself. And then this is just a over the garden wall thing that says, not all who wander are lost. I love all the prints that I got. I love prints. I love Artist Alley. I will always support artists. I don't care. Take my money. And if you're thinking, is she rich? No. And then I got this. This was The Doors to Moria, speak friend and enter. I just thought it was very pretty. So this was also from Weta. This is just the Fellowship walking. Ah, look how beautiful it is. Ah, look at those colors. This is for the girls, okay? This is a very beautiful, it was an oil painting that this guy does. It's called, I think he's called like Art of the Nerd. Question mark? This is his Rivendell oil painting. Obviously this is a print. I also have this. So these were from Lisaveeee. The little hobbitses sleeping in a ring. Trixie hobbitses. Howell and Sophie print that I accidentally did mess up, and I'm devastated about it. I accidentally put a dent right there, and then there's another one. But it's stunning and I don't care, and it's gonna go in a frame anyway. I'm just disappointed that I marred that beautiful piece of art. Yeah, that is my haul from megacon. I hope you enjoyed this video. I just kind of figured it would be interesting to go over the media related things of each month. Maybe I'll do it all the time, maybe I'll only do it in months that are interesting, maybe I'll never do it again. But this is my March 2026 media wrap up, baby! Bye!